Good morning, Centennial Rotary.
Good morning,
Can I remind everybody to please silence their cell phones? Mr. Ostergaard, would you please give us an inspiration this morning?
Yes, I will. I felt today more like an inspiration than an invocation. So this is an inspiration for all of you that are thinking of adopting. You can't buy loyalty, they say. I bought it, though, the other day. You can't buy friendship, tried and true. Well, just the same, I bought that, too. I made my bed and on the spot bought love and faith and a whole job lot of happiness. So all in all, the purchase price was pretty small. I bought in a single trusting heart that gave devotion from the start. If you think these things are not for sale, buy a brown-eyed puppy with a stub for a tail.
Thank you, Ken. Charlie, would you please lead us in the pledge? Charlie Jackson, please lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Charlie.
You're welcome. I wasn't sure if there was another Charlie in the building.
Randy Ernest, do you have a Rotary Minute for us today?
I do have a Rotary Minute. Good morning, everybody. Today's Rotary Minute is about how younger people can be, thank you, how younger people can get involved in Rotary. Everyone's pretty familiar with Rotary's Youth Exchange Program, which is our international student exchange program. But Rotary also has a couple of other ways that younger people can become Rotarians. There are two formal programs. One is Interact, which are Rotary clubs established for people from 12 to 18 years old, typically high school-based clubs. The other are Rotaract clubs, which are typically for college-age students, but they're people 18 to 30 years old. And those are can be set up by anybody, which is really the reason I bring it up. If you know of anyone who's interested in setting up like an Interact club or Rotaract club, if you know teachers or students, you can be the person to sponsor them through our club, and they can get set up at schools or outside of school if necessary. But it's a way for younger people to get involved in Rotary at a younger age, have a forum for service, which is important in particularly in high schools these days, and is available to any of us to help sponsor. Our club has had some in the past. We had one through Valor a couple of years ago, which was a little sporadic, and we've worked with some of our former exchange students through their Rotaract clubs as they went to college. So it's something we have some experience with. Thanks.
Thank you, Randy. John Wetzler, do you have a business minute for us? Take another bite.
Morning. John Wexler. I'm with RX Solar, and that's a residential solar company. And for those that don't know much about solar, the idea of a person getting it is to own their own power instead of buying it from XL or IREA. We utilize what's called a net meter, which allows us to pump solar or energy back into the system, but we can draw it back free. So that's the nice thing about it. It ends up, over a period of years, saving a considerable amount of money. That's what RX Solar does. And we're also ranked #1 in the nation in customer satisfaction, according to solarreviews.com, which is much like Better Business Bureau. Thank you.
I think I read in that magazine that you're known as Mr. Sunshine as well, right? Yeah, okay. I want to thank Ken, Hope, and Alan for setting up, and Eric, I guess you'll be taking down or something. I saw you walk in here earlier. John Bellum, thanks for greeting. You didn't greet today? Kevin. Oh, Kevin. Okay. All right. Thank you. Kent, thanks for that inspiration. Puppy dogs are a lot of fun. And Charlie, thanks for the pledge. All right, now we do have a pretty packed day today, but I don't want to forget to introduce some of our visiting Rotarians. We have Jim Bickford. Jim, you want to stand up for a second? Jim is the president of the Aurora Club.
Yeah, I'm president of the Rotary Club. Just figured I'd stop by and say hi. I'm not fishing anything, not selling anything, just saying hi and glad to be part of the Rotary family.
You mentioned about the project you're doing is the Red Tail Hall.
Well, if you're going to ask me about the project, I'll tell you about the project. So we are, in connection with the City of Aurora and a couple of other foundations, we are committing at least $100,000. We're trying to get that up to $250,000, but we'll see where we end up. But we're going to build out a portion of Red Tail Hawk Park, which is at Gartrell and 470, and make that handicap accessible and fully accessible to special needs kids. So right now there's not really a place in the City of Aurora where kids with special needs can play alongside their siblings that don't have quite those challenges. So we're trying to build that place where families can drop off their kids, sit in one spot, have a nice quiet moment, let the kids do their thing and not have to worry about that. So that's what we're working on. That's kind of our big project. If anyone's interested, you can always reach out to me. Dave Walter knows how to get a hold of me. John Bellum knows how to get a hold of me. So that's that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, we have another visiting Rotarian who's also going to be our speaker today. Hassan would just like to stand up and take a bow, and then you'll get introduced a little bit later. Thank you very much, Hassan. Hassan, which club are you in?
I'm with Club 31.
Club 31.
Rotary Club.
Okay. All right. We have no birthdays, no wedding anniversaries, but we do have a couple of Rotary anniversaries. Samantha Johnson, 2 years. And Trip Butler, 4 years. I don't see Trip here today, though. So we'll just take that back. We'll make him wait. We'll make him wait another month. All right, we'll get to some quick club business. Tom Buck, please, for a second. Microphone.
I knew that. I don't know how many of you remember Lloyd Dickinson. He's a Rotarian with Parker Club. He passed away recently. It was in the obituaries yesterday, Sunday. But just wanted to mention that in case anybody wasn't aware. But he was really a neat guy. He spoke to this club a couple times. He was born in 1924, so he was 92 years old. Pretty interesting stories. He wrote a book, and I won't go into a lot of detail, but a couple of the highlights were he was one of the very last people to be named to a crew to fly a B-17 across the Atlantic to the European theater. And the other crew members didn't want to go with him because he was 19 years old and hadn't trained with them, and he just was added to the crew. But he did all right, and they were all very satisfied with the job. He got him right on the spot. But and then he was shot down in his very first mission, and was some Czechoslovakian family tried to protect him and hide him from the Nazis, but they eventually got him, and he wound up in a prisoner of war camp. So pretty amazing story. When he landed with his parachute, there was a silk flag looking thing that actually had a map in it, and he thought, oh, that'll really help me to escape because I've got a map. But he was in Czechoslovakia, and the map was of North Africa. So, poor guy couldn't catch a break. And he stayed very close with the family that tried to help him in Czechoslovakia, and their daughter wound up going to CU to college, and he was over there a number of times. They had really neat programs to honor those who were killed in the B-17. So anyway, if anybody's interested, I do have the book. I don't know if it's still in print. Kent?
Loy was instrumental in getting this club started, and I want everybody to remember that. We had a meeting at the Village Inn on Arapahoe Road with Alan Loeb, who was the district governor at the time, and Loy, who was a past district governor and was the head of the extension committee for the district. And we met, there was 4 or 5 of us from the Highlands Ranch Club that met at that Village Inn that day. And at the end of the meeting, we were walking out, and Lloyd turned to me and he said, well, this is your idea. Guess who's going to be president?
Thank you, Ken.
Okay, Mary Alice, do you have an announcement about prime timers?
I just wanted you to know that on Thursday, the Centennial Active Seniors is having a special program at the City Center Park from 10 to 11:30 on the birds of prey. And if you have grandkids or you have a special interest in those birds, they're going to be there and flying the things out. The program is outside. And this is the group that the Centennial Senior Commission is sponsoring, and we collaborate with them at Primetimers.
Okay, before we get into peaches, I wanted to just let you guys know that I put a flyer on each table for the WASH Symposium. It's the 6th annual WASH Symposium that the district's doing. It'd really be nice to have a couple of people attend. The club will pay for your attendance as long as you make the early bird sign up. So it's $45, but the club will pay for you to attend.
What is it?
There's a flyer on your table. It's a symposium about water, sanitation and health. Okay? So. Uh-huh.
It's the Rotary program that they use internationally when you build wells and you go in and you give people clean water. It helps the communities understand how to take care of their clean water and part of the sustainability. So when we do Madagascar, we had to include what is our program as part of our grant, how we're going to support WASH, clean water, sustainable water, and this is part of it.
So it's what she said. And I also want to do a special shout out and thank you to Don Shattuck for the great job he does on the newsletter every week. Man, spends a lot of time on it. Now, next week we have classification talks, but on the 14th of this month we have a club assembly. And Samantha, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. So on your table, you will see a list of all the committees, and your name should be on this. Now, a lot of you did not return the preferences to me, so I just kind of put you wherever I felt you should be. So take it or take it. That's just the way it is. So no, but so on the I'm trying to delegate. I'm learning in the president-elect position. So on the 14th, we'll be meeting in our committees, respective committees, and then also for those that do not already have a committee chair, there will be that time to select a committee chair. If you're interested, go ahead and let me know. If this placement does not suit you very well, please let me know and I can rearrange. But we like to have them pretty equal among all the members, sharing relative responsibilities between the committees. So if you could just stay on the committee or signed, I would appreciate it.
Thanks, Samantha. On the 21st, we have an inspirational speaker. And then on the 28th, Jessica Seidner is going to be doing a presentation on how we are going to promote our club and what it's going to take to promote our club.
Say that about the 14th.
The 14th is the club assembly. The 28th, Jessica Seidner.
All right.
Okay? Et al. Okay. Do we have any travel gifts? And I haven't forgotten about peaches. I'm going to do it after. Yes.
So I just had the most magical honeymoon, and I'm going to give a huge shout out to my new husband who rocked my world Hey, we're married. God says it's good.
And so it begins.
I will brag. I got the privilege of going to Wimbledon, a concert, and the U.S. or the British Open, and it was. I will say this about if you've got a bucket list, don't leave it on the bucket list because once you just do it, you realize all you got to do is just do it, and it's pretty amazing. So, anyway, travel gifts. So we went to Fortnum and Mason, and it's, if you've not been to London and you want tea, it is the premier tea house to have tea. I will own that I did not have tea because the thing that I found that I love in England is that they love their champagne, and they have some of the best by the glass champagne list, so I pretty much enjoyed lots of champagne. But we have a tea set, and then what I found, which was cool, I don't know if anybody here is into honeycomb and honey, but we had honeycomb and honey to go with our tea. Sorry. I had a day by myself while Eric was working, and I went to Greenwich, which is just a short boat ride down from London, and I got to stand on the famous line, and I was in East and West together, but we have a tea towel to go with your tea. We did, in keeping with the John McCarty tradition, in Scotland, we had to go all the way to Scotland to find coasters to steal from the pubs, because in London, they've replaced all the coasters with napkins, thanks to you. I think they got sick of replacing them all. So we finally found pubs in Edinburgh to steal coasters from. But with the idea of coasters in Greenwich, I found some really cool, actual nice coasters to go with my tea set. And prior to us leaving, we actually spent a weekend in Granby, and I don't know who has the Fanta Ranch. We definitely enjoyed it for a week. I did.
Oh, just want to make sure.
You get it supposedly back. I haven't seen mine back, but so we went to Grand Lake and found a necklace for the Rotary gift, multi-metal. So that's my travel.
Surprised you didn't have a bodyguard bringing in.
Yeah. I did.
Does anybody else have a travel gift? Oh, Eric, of course.
Well, in the true Rotary tradition, it wouldn't go by us to not have at least an impromptu ad hoc Rotary Club meeting up at the RNA at St. Andrews last Monday. So a good friend of Randy Pote, who's also a great friend and a former member of the club, introduced us to Mr. Richard Hind, who's a member of the RNA. And he invited us up for a day at St. Andrews to include lunch at the club. And we had our impromptu Rotary Club meeting there, and got the
very nice.
Got the banner to exchange, and provided us as well. So I'll come up and bring that up to you.
Perfect.
And so my favorite story of this, and I'm gonna share. It's good to know people.
Perfect. Thanks so much. That's great.
And when we were wandering around St. Andrews, that course, the old course, it's giant and it's an open park. And I will tell you, tourists are phenomenally stupid around golfers, because as they're wandering through hole 1 and 18, because you can, in the middle of people teeing off. And so you have marshals that kind of keep things going, including the famous bridge on 18. And so we walked over. This marshal cleared the whole bridge because there were people teeing off. He happened to be the neighbor of Richard. So we were just sitting there talking, chatting, and as the golfers went by, he made 30 people literally wait, because he said these two are important. And so we got to the head of the line. It's good to know people.
Okay, can anyone top that? All right, we're going to go ahead and do Happy Bucks, and then we're going to give Sarah Nielsen about 5 to 10 minutes to do a presentation on how to do your peach orders online. Jeannie, did you want to say anything about peaches before we continue on? Sarah's going to be giving a presentation.
No, but remember to get out there and sell your peaches. It is that time. And you all should all have the forms, and Sarah's going to tell you about a new plan with forms. So peaches, it's peaches time. I don't know how many we sold, but Barb will know in a couple of weeks where we're standing right now.
Good luck on your surgery. And then we have the Princess of Peaches over here. So she'll take over for Jeannie next week. All right, Happy Bucks. Let's see. Who has Happy Bucks? I don't have. Oh, here we go. Hang on a second. Somebody has happy bucks today.
I'll do it. I'm happy.
Okay. Go for it.
So I'll start at this table, and don't make eye contact.
Yeah, please, no pressure.
Do I need change?
Here's $5, just go away.
Couple just because.
Good.
I guess we have 5 today. You want to start?
No, I already did one.
Okay. Well, got 5 today, but just coming off the most wonderful wedding and honeymoon season. You guys have already heard about it, so I won't belabor it any further.
Yes, go Broncos, which leads right into this. I had the opportunity to go to the Broncos practice yesterday, and I have to tell you, I don't think you guys have to worry about this year. We're pretty optimistic. They look damn good, so go Broncos.
This is just $1 for Jim Bickford, who was my mentor in the Aurora Club, and I thought I had worked really hard to get away, but next thing I know, I walk in and there he is this morning. I had to wonder if I was in the wrong place.
Well, I have 20. Yesterday was a good day, if you can call it that. A couple weeks ago, my eye doctor sent me to a retin-A specialist. And I thought, okay, don't need that in my life. But yesterday morning, we had no traffic at 8 o'clock, driving clear out to the Taj Mahal, if you know where that is. And the retin-A doctor said, that tear is already healing, and we could do laser and seal it up, but I recommend you let it go unless you're going to take off and leave the country for 10 years. So I jumped through that hoop and said, thank you, I don't need to do that. And yesterday afternoon at 4:30, I got a call from Jason, the PA with my surgery, and he said that water we drained off of your knee last week with the 2 big punches, as they call it. If you've ever had them punch a needle in your knee and take fluid, it's a whole lot of fun. But he said that it did not grow any new problems. So Thursday, I'm actually having knee surgery, not a cutting open my leg to take all that. I was afraid I was going to do the Ken Hope dance for a while, but I jumped through that one. And I had a guardian angel watching over me because yesterday was the 7th anniversary of Hank's death. So all's good.
I've got 2. First, Mr. Bickford. Thanks for being here, and he was also my golfing partner at the Casa tournament. Second place, 17 under, so it was good. Not because of me, though, I'll tell you that. And then the second one, would you stand up for me, David, please? Come here. No, come here. Please. Yeah. This made me happy today. This is the difference between a working dude and a retired dude right here. All right, thank you. Good.
I've just got a scoot buck, so my apologies to our speaker. I have to bug out early.
They put you back here.
Oh, I'm back here at my own volition.
Anyone else?
Oh, match Jeannie's 20 as well. Just a peach committee thing, I think. Just thanks for having me, and hopefully this makes up for any millennial mistakes we make.
And I like how she's wearing her husband's tape, so it's like 2 for 1 attendance today.
I am happy to have survived my family reunion in Baltimore last week. If you knew my family, you would know that I owe you $99.
A good luck dollar for Jeannie and your surgical team come Thursday.
I have 2. One, obviously, is because I'm retired. The other is a memory buck. A little later this morning, there's a celebration of life for Jack Platt, who was one of the founding fathers of the Cherry Creek School District. in Jack's memory.
I have $20, mainly apology bucks because I went to the Dominican Republic, which I am thankful for, but I didn't bring back any travel gifts. I didn't do any shopping, but did have some great family time. It was 5 years in the making. It was in celebration of my folks' 50th anniversary, so we were able to get me and my two brothers and all our families together. There was 12 of us down there, and it was a really good time. Also thankful for the week leading up to that. Had an opportunity to play golf with Tim and Ken and Tim's son, so had a great time doing that, and thanks for Casas for putting on that event.
I have two. One is for Jeannie. Good luck this week. I'll be thinking about you. And the other one is a happy buck because our grandkids were with us for 4 days this week. And we had a great time, and we survived.
I'm going to have to fill out another IOU because I still don't have any cash. But this past weekend, I spent 4 days with my mom, who turned 92 last Saturday, and my siblings. We do this every year. We went up to Glenwood Springs and sat in the hot pool, went to Maroon Bells, took some pictures there, and stopped in Breckenridge, I think, on the way over. So.
Yeah. So I have one happy buck with the expectation of winning the lottery today.
Anyone here? Back here?
I got two happy bucks because I'm happy to say that the McGuire clan met up in Breckenridge last week for 5 days, all 71 of us. And I had 14 people come from Ireland, 3 nieces and 3 nephews and their children, and even a nephew come from Hawaii, people from Seattle, California, New Jersey, you name it. So we had quite a... The only thing is we couldn't find a pub with any beer up there. It's not right. But anyway, while we were there, some of us went to a concert of a guy by the name of Jim Adams, if anybody ever heard him, but he is John Denver. He plays all John Denver music, and I'm telling you, when he's on the stage, you would think it was John Denver. So while he was there, he talked about when he was a young man, he and another guy started out playing guitar. And his partner then said, you know, there's no money in this guitar business, I'm going to get into the furniture business. And who was it but the guy that owns American Furniture Warehouses? And he was sitting in the front row, and Jim Adams invited him up to sing. And he got up and he got the guitar and he started singing a song too. And it was quite, if you ever get a chance to go to this Jim Adams, John Denver concert, it's really something else. And the guy that owns the furniture store, he matched the contributions that was made that night for cancer, I guess. And which was like $1,500. So anyway, we had a great time, and all the people that went back home had great memories of being in Breckenridge. Great place to go. Thanks.
Just $1. Happy to be here, and that's it. I have $7. This morning this Saturday is the 7th anniversary of my wife's stem cell transplant, which put her in remission from her cancer. So it's awesome. To me, nothing less than a miracle of modern science, and I'm a little self-serving because I'm doing my best not to forget.
All right, I have one. Had a good time this past weekend, Sloan's Lake, at the Colorado Dragon Boat Festival. It was very nice to reconnect with leaders in the Asian community.
Well, I'm going to say I'm a little jealous of this John Denver thing because I had every single 8-track. For those millennials, do you know what an 8-track is? Anyone here?
I have $1 for our guest speaker, Hassan, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you.
have $1. The Puerto Rico Water Project Committee met yesterday, and we have a name for our project, Water Rico. And we own the domain name, and we're about to put a website for crowdfunding. So
cool. All right. Three. Okay, I have 3. 1, Jeannie, good luck. All right, we're really looking forward to you coming back quickly. And John, Jim, I'm sorry, Jim Bickford, thanks for coming. And also for our speaker, Hassan. It was wonderful to see that you're Rotarian as well. So thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Now, I would like to present Sarah Nielsen. Sarah's part of our Millennial group, and Sarah has graciously decided to help out with the peach sales this year. So she's going to educate us just a little bit on how to fill out our peach sale forms so we can sell like 500 cases of peaches this year.
Thank you. So I'm joining the committee this year. I'm trying to move us a little bit forward in technology to alleviate a little bit of work for some people, but there's optional. It's a transition year, so you can do the old way or you could do the new way. You still have your peaches form just like that you either complete yourself or have your customer complete. So with this information, we need to get this information from you. So that is what I'm covering today. How are we getting this information from you? So there is a Google form that I have created that you can fill out online in lieu of the Excel spreadsheet if you'd like, or you can do both, or the Excel spreadsheet the old way if you like. So Karen will put this out to email for everybody to have, and then I think we will also put it in the newsletter for today as well for people to have. So we have our form here, and I'm just going to go over how to fill this out. So you do not need a Gmail or a Google or anything. You just need an email to fill out this form. So you get that link, so you click on fill out the form right here, and it will take you to this website that says Rotary Peach Sales Form. So you are going to put your name in as the Rotarian. This is all the same information that is also on this form, so you should have all of this for yourself. Then your customer's name. And this is a person who I sold to, so Barb, this will be good for it. You don't have to delete it. The customer's email address. And then their customer's phone number, which is also asked to be filled in on that form. If you don't have the customer's phone number, you could put your phone number in, just someone to contact if we have any questions. And then we go down and we select here what box size and how many boxes. So Linda here ordered from me an 18-ounce or 18-pound box, just one of them. So I'm selecting the one out of that. Then we are putting the amount that they owe in there. She owes $37. She paid me, amount paid, $37 in the form of a check. Then you just hit submit, and this will populate into a form. All of your information will go into one Excel form for us to collect, and then we use that information for collections on September 1st when we distribute those peaches. So, any questions? Yes?
So, at first, if we don't collect the money, we're just doing the pre-order, and let's say 3 days later they give us the money. How do we update it? Can we update it online?
I don't think you can update it. You could email me and I could get in there to update it. But there was, Brad, in there too, you could see the amount owed, so you could keep that, or amount paid at 0. And then, we will keep, that shows our balance. So I can go back in there and update the form to do that, yes.
You just wait until you have the money and then go in?
You could, but I think we want this populated by the 21st, which is when we are putting in our order for the sale. So if you guys could complete this all by August 21st. Yes.
How do you get to that form?
So we'll send out the link via email and in the newsletter. Yes, Mary Alice.
Some of mine come in through next door, so I don't have an email address. So I can put that one.
I think it is a required field, so you could put in your email address. Any other questions or things I can clarify? Yeah, you might have to do a little math to do this.
Sarah, we might add here, if you are using this form and you have already sold, like I have a whole bunch, and you've got checks, or if you don't have the check, I staple the check to this form for anybody that's not done it. And every week I bring a whole envelope and give to Barb so she's got the information in advance. So if you're using that form, you can still do that, but attach the check to it, or I put a note on the bottom in red, pay at pickup. Because remember, when they come to pick up the peaches, Rotarians, you are responsible for everybody you sold to. You are responsible for their money. The club is not. So it's up to you to collect the money from everyone you've sold to. And they can pay when they arrive on Saturday morning. That's fine, we do that. But know that you have to collect that money.
Yeah, so we have 3 weeks. That's when the deadline is, 3 weeks away. Great, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, Sarah. And you know, it's really gratifying to see the amount of work that everybody puts into this, especially some of our millennials. I still haven't heard from Eric yet how we did on the last beer thing, but he's got one coming up, not this weekend, August 11th, yeah. August 11th is Centennial Under the Stars. So make sure everybody's ready for that. That's the biggest one of the year as far as beer events. And with that, Cheryl?
Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Hassan Latif, and he is the founder of Second Chance Center, which is an organization that he founded in 2012 to assist those who are leaving prison to go, that have been incarcerated, to go into society and be able to be mentored and to stay out of prison. The curriculum that he has developed has a less than 9% recidivism rate, which is terrific. It's one of the most recognized organizations in the state of Colorado, and is going throughout the entire United States. They conduct mentoring and reentry trainings for government and non-service providers nationally. They facilitate transitions, planning sessions. He works with the Colorado Department of Corrections and has authored a book, Steps for Staying Out of Prison. And he works with the Colorado Criminal Justice Reform Coalition, where he is the president or director. And he holds a seat on the Colorado Commission on Juvenile Justice Reentry Reform. Hopefully I got everything.
Pretty much.
Let's give him a big round of applause.
Good morning, Rotary family. It took me a long ways to get to Rotary, and I'm not talking about the distance from my house. I live in Aurora, so not very far from here. But I'm a member of the downtown Denver Rotary Club, Club 31. And thank you for the introduction, Cheryl, and for the invitation. Second Chance Center, we're located in Aurora, sir. Our main facility is on Dayton and 16th. And when I started this agency in 2012, for the first year or so, it was a mobile unit in my car. And we moved into a walk-in closet on Lima Street in 2013, and I brought on 2 people. The first was a young man who serves now as our deputy director. His name was Sean Ashi Taylor, and he had done caught a life sentence at age 17 for a gang-related incident and spent 22 years in prison in Colorado. And Governor Ritter chose to commute his sentence 8 years ago. and given an opportunity to come home based on things he was doing inside, gang disengagement work, teaching English as a second language, these types of things, not in an effort to get out. His intention was to get right. And it was recognized by the governor. He was given a chance to come home. The second gentleman was Adam Abdullah, who had completed 33 years and 3 months in federal penitentiaries across the country. And myself, having served 18 years in the state of Colorado, that's 75 cumulative years in prison. So when we really started this, quite naturally, people were thinking, what are these guys up to? And so we operated as though we were under a very, very big microscope and that all eyes were on us. And we didn't think that was paranoia. We thought that it was prudent to perform that way. What happened as a result of that is that people actually got to see what we do and the way we go about our work. And so now we're a staff of 17. We have an annex on Colfax and Chester, so we had to grow out of that walk-in closet and another facility as well. It's our training center. So we do the regular job prep stuff, and we have the highest job placement numbers of anyone doing this work in Colorado, and we rank nationally in a lot of these areas in job retention, certificate attainment. Well, what we're finding is that our folks are trying harder than they ever have before. One of the subjects that I wanted to speak to you about today has to do with mindfulness. And someone asked, because let me just tell you a little bit of backstory. In 2014, we helped pass a piece of legislation that made it mandatory for the Department of Corrections to allocate a certain percentage of their reentry budget to community-based organizations doing this work. It had never been done before. And they felt some kind of way about it. They felt as though we had hijacked their budget. And we had. But there was money going into a black hole and nothing had changed. The recidivism rate in the state is 49.6. And where I had been doing this work previously for another agency, it seemed like the department expected that return rate, and for the people I worked for, they accepted it. To me, it was not acceptable. And where I heard people who had been given opportunities to train and to be employed, cycling in and out, when they come out, they would say, Hassan, everything was going great. I had a good job. I was making $20 an hour. I had my own place. I was back with my family. And then, like this miraculous thing happened and the bottom fell out. Well, I knew that it really didn't happen like that, that people start to be less disciplined about what they do. They start to cut corners and eventually are compromised by a number of things and wind up back inside. I'm pleased now to say and to hear people saying, this is the longest I've ever been out of prison. I've never been off of parole before. These kinds of things. And when we say to our folks, the better you do, the better we're going to be able to do, this is a truth. Because if it wasn't for the fact that we sport this low recidivism number, no one would care what Hassan Latif had to say about what was good. No one would know who I was if it wasn't for the fact that our people are coming out, they're not reoffending, they're paying their taxes, they're building their lives. Someone asked what it is. In fact, one of the representatives, because the interesting thing is, this year was the sunset review for that piece of legislation. For those who don't know, when you get some legislation passed in Colorado, about 18 months before it's defunded or refunded, DORA does an audit of the program and comes back to the legislature and says whether or not this money has been appropriately allocated, whether the outcomes are good enough to continue it. And sitting next to me that day testifying was the director of the Division of Adult Parole. So in just 3.5 years, we've gone from seeming adversaries to partners in an effort that everyone acknowledges is important. And that's for people to come out and have public safety improved, not hindered. What we're finding in the midst of our success has been our deficiency. And that is in serving folks with mental health needs. We have more and more people returning to just back up. 98% of the people that are currently in jail, y'all, are one day coming home. So it only behooves us to be concerned about the treatment inside and the ability to assist these folks when they come out. It just makes sense. It's certainly much cheaper. It costs $38,000 a year to keep someone locked up in prison in Colorado. They certainly don't give us $38,000 a client. So fiscally is prudent as well. But we consider that one of the baselines of our performance out here at Second Chance Center is to improve public safety. We have the commitment for the last victim to be the last victim. This is what we promote with our folks. We think that one of the big things, and someone asked me at that hearing what was the secret sauce to our success. I had never been asked that before. But I answered then, and I'm telling you all, that I believe it's because this population, and usually when you make a statement about a whole group of people, you're usually in error. Well, about this population, that's my folks, and I feel like I can speak for them. For the most part, they have felt apart from, as opposed to a part of, most of their lives. Sometimes from the very families from which they came. And at Second Chance Center, we try to reverse that. They're a part of this thing. We say the better you do, the better we're going to be able to do, and this is the truth. When we send them out to a job, we don't need them coming back and expressing their gratitude. We know you're great, you're grateful, we're happy for you too. What we need you to do, though, is be a good employee. So when a spot opens up, your boss will come to you and say, hey, I need a guy or I need a lady, and you say, I'm going to call Second Chance Center because you know we got one. If we help you get housing, we know you're grateful, but what we really need you to do is be a good tenant and a great neighbor. So we open up those opportunities for others. You mentioned being from Aurora, Mr. Bigfoot. That's very interesting. We have a proposal to build a 50-unit permanent supportive housing project in Aurora. We were awarded low-income housing tax credits by CHAFA last September to do this. It was our first attempt to get into this field. We were told this would never happen on the first try. We were told it would never happen for someone like us. We feel like a lot of things we're doing has never been done before. Why should this be any different? And it's not just for men and women coming home from prison, but for anyone challenged with chronic homelessness, for folks with disabilities or some other kind of barriers to supportive housing. And so we're pretty happy about the possibility of that going forward. And so what we're finding, and I mentioned our deficit, is part of our work is around the curriculum from the book that I wrote, Never Going Back, 7 Steps to Staying Out of Prison. The number one step in that 7-step curriculum is own your own crap. Excuse me, ladies. It's about accountability. And I know the importance of this because I spent the first 15 years of my incarceration literally in court every single day, either fighting a case or appealing a case. And I did this by pointing my finger at everyone else who had done everything else wrong. My only intention was to get out of prison. For 15 years I did this. I went to the Court of Appeals in Colorado and the Supreme Court of Colorado 7 times. Went to the feds 3 times. Each time they found a new and imaginative way to throw my responsibilities back in my face. And at some point after this 15 years, I was at a place in my life, you call it an epiphany, or I call it this afternoon, where I came to the realization that they may have gotten this wrong, and this wrong, but they got the right guy. Because I needed to be stopped, and I didn't have the ability to do that myself. Well, when we coach folks to acknowledge this about themselves, what part they had to do in their own life, it's an empowering thing. Because once you stop blaming people and you start taking responsibility, then you can see where it is you can do something differently. We encourage folks to do that. In fact, we're so serious about it that we discourage people from coming to us. We do what we call pre-release transition planning sessions by going into all the prisons. And we'll tell people, if you're not finished, if you think you got another run in you, if you're still prone to resolve conflicts through violence, if manipulation is still a key to getting your ends met, then don't mess with us. I don't use the word mess. It's another one that begins with F. I'll spare you. But we say don't, because if we're not willing to invest time or resources in someone that's not committed to investing time in themselves. But what we think that we do with this thing we go inside with. We call it role modeling possibilities. People are coming out now with, I think, a hopefulness that they never had before, because they see people, 8 out of the 17 folks that are on my staff are formerly incarcerated persons. We have 120 years of incarceration time on staff. So we understand not only what they've been through, but what they're going to be confronted with and need to build up their skill set to confront and to navigate through. So we think this is one of the tenets of our success. But what I said about the deficit is, once again, when we start dealing with these things about ownership of one's behavior, we have already developed a level of trust with folks just by the common thread that most of us have with them. And it's needed when you're asking people to look at sometimes dark and very uncomfortable things about themselves, and then to commit to doing something about it. But this kind of work gets messy because of what's brought up. It gets messy. We think people have to find that stuff and work through it in order to get past it. If not, people just continue to cycle in and out and wonder why it is they keep going back and forth to prison and making these kinds of decisions. We're not looking for excuses for why people do what they do. That's not what we do. We want people to understand what got you to think. Our formula, thoughts plus feelings equals behavior. If the way a person thinks remains the same, they're probably going to feel the same way about most things, including the world and their place in it. And ultimately, the behavior is likely to be similar, if not the same. So these are some very critical parts of our work. And what we try to do, when I mentioned the topic being mindfulness, we try to provide a place that's safe. We had some representative from, I think, Arapahoe Sheriff's Department. I see he's gone now. But we have not had one negative police contact incident at Centennial Center in our existence. And you can go into our computer lab sometime and see young men sitting next to each other that were literally shooting at each other 6 or 7 summers ago. It's like Switzerland. They come there for an opportunity to have a second chance at having a real life. And they are protective of that space. And we try to encourage that and encourage the opening of these vessels sometimes that are full of some of the, I mean, this is not the most warm and cuddliest population to represent out here. Okay? All right? But some of the most horrific victims wind up being perpetrators. And when we work with our folks on this, we find more and more of that. We understand more and more about what drives people's behaviors. And so we've been reaching out to our community over the last 18 months to help us bolster us up about this mental health. So my thanks and shouts out, even though they're not represented here, to the Mental Health Center of Aurora, Mental Health Center of Denver, these folks who have come to our aid for crisis intervention in certain situations. And we also just want to thank the community, because part of what we've found is that, one, we could not do this work without the support of the community. We're very heavily grant funded, but it doesn't cover what we do. We're already at least 200% over-enrolled in our programs, because we can't say no to people when they come to the door like, hey, we already got our numbers, we can't help you. No, we struggle to find ways to help them. And the only way we've been able to do it thus far is with the community's help, and probably some of you in this room. But I'd like to open up for questions if you have any. You don't have to worry about political correctness or anything like that. I'm really being on my best behavior. Yes, ma'am.
Hassan, thank you for coming and for sharing the success that you guys are obviously having.
Thank you.
From the title of your book, Never Going Back, I'd love to be able to see someone write a book entitled Never Going In.
Yes.
And can some of the success strategies that you've been employing be shared with other agencies, other entities, so that that success can be transferred to prevention as opposed to, what's the word I'm looking for? I think you understand the question.
Your name, ma'am?
I'm Diana, sorry.
Diana, that's a great question. I believe so. You know, there was a time when we used to really keep our heads down and stay in our lane. We said we're just going to do this work, and really it's because we did feel like all eyes were on us. We did feel like we needed to get a really good start, and we didn't want to try to do everything that people were inviting us to do, including working with youth. But that's changed because our population has widened our lane just by the exposure of their need. So we passed some legislation last year called Transforming Safety, which was a justice reinvestment bill that put money into North Aurora as a pilot and Southeast Colorado Springs. Part of that grant, part of that legislation provided for economic development, small business loans. The other part of it was grants to be made to small community-based organizations, and a local planning group of 23 people decided what the priorities would be for that money. The Denver Foundation were the ones who monitored and oversaw it, and I mention it because out of that grant, and out of those, I don't know how many were funded, maybe 20, some of those are youth-focused entities. And part of Transforming Safety was not just to fund grassroots entities that were doing good work, but maybe didn't have the resources, but to get others to collaborate with them and strengthen the effort. So what we're doing now is we're finding ourselves supporting these youth-focused entities. We've been doing that at Second Chance Center on a smaller scale because as our folks have become more stable and more successful, their children have come back into their lives, and sometimes they come back with issues as well. So we've expanded like that. You're absolutely right. You know, we want to stop the flow. We want to stop the flow, and part of it is cutting through the mentality that this is some sort of historic and rite of passage for particularly young men and women in the Black and Latino communities and other poor white communities. This is not a rite of passage. And so we're looking to get more and more involved. I absolutely want to see someone come up with a formula for never going in, because that should be easier than figuring out a way to stay out. Yes, sir.
You talk about going into the prisons and interviewing individuals. Who identifies individuals that might be a candidate for your program?
That's a good question as well. We have access to all the units at DLC facilities that they call pre-release pods. So if someone is 6 months to release or less, they go into these separate pods. The benefit of part of it is you're around a bunch of other people who are also thinking about getting out soon. So it cuts down on some of the drama. Sometimes it cuts down on some of the violence. So this is the main pool of resources that we have, folks that are close to coming out. But they self-select whether or not they are going to engage with Second Chance Center. We, of course, don't get everyone. 800 people are being released a month from prison in Colorado, and 150 are being released homeless. A large portion of those folks are coming back to the Denver metropolitan area. And we see about 50 to 60 people a day. We see 1,200 folks a month at Second Chance Center. We also feed people every day at Second Chance Center, primarily with the help of a nonprofit called We Don't Waste. They're food rescuers, and they get food from nursing homes and hospitals and distributors, and they some of it's prepared, some of it's frozen, and so we feed folks there every day. But no one actually chooses who works with us. But it's interesting that you you mentioned, Cheryl, that I'm with Colorado Criminal Justice Reform Coalition. I'm the president of their board, and at one time, the mission of CCGRC was to end mass incarceration. And I've been with them about 7 years now doing legislative work. But I've never been about mass incarceration, but I've been about selective incarceration, okay? And I'll go into a room of 200 inmates in the Colorado prison, and I'll ask the question, or rather make the statement, that everybody in here knows at least one person that should never walk the streets free again. Whoa. And I know these people. There are monsters in those dark places. And I'll also say to them, if you don't know that one person, it's probably you. So we choose ultimately who we work with, sir. And they need to be committed to these things, to doing some things differently, to confronting the truth, definitely to avoiding resolution of conflicts through violence. And yes, sir.
Can you walk us through a day in the life of a person that gets into your program?
I'll walk you through the day in the life of the last gentleman that I met last week. I didn't go to the office yesterday. I was up in Kenosha Pass at a retreat. This gentleman came in. He had been locked up in 1964. Whoa. And just got out. So that's 54 years. And when I came in, they told me he was in the house. I went to introduce myself. And a little old man, and clearly looking as though he was somewhere in the Twilight Zone. Yeah. And I introduced myself. He told me his name was James. I asked him his last name. He told me. And I said, well, I'm going to call you Mr. So-and-so. I'm not going to call you James. They may have never heard that before. But that's one of the extremes. Usually when we see people coming into Second Chance Center, they're already coming in with an idea of what's going to happen because they know someone who's come through. They know someone who's gotten help with a job. They know someone who, what we're going to do first, if they're on parole, they're wearing khaki pants and a blue pullover shirt and some plastic sneakers, and we're changing those clothes right away. We have a trailer on our parking lot. Half of it's men's clothing and the other half is furniture, and a camper that's all ladies' clothing. What people don't understand is that everybody who's been to prison knows that outfit. So someone coming out is pretty much targeted for predators on the street. They know they may have a $100 debit card or whatever money they had on their books when they got out of prison. And that's the last thing they need is for somebody to identify them like that and come to them, hey, you need something? No, I don't need anything you got. In fact, what I do need is you point me to a Second Chance Center. That's all I need. You know, so we want to get them out of that right away. Usually we want to feed people. We do our intake process. We want it to be as unintrusive to start with as possible. We want to find out what their initial needs are. If they're on medications, we want to make sure they either have them or we can get them connected to it. Over the course of that intake, we want to assess what kind of experiences they have, what jobs they may be looking for or be qualified for, those kind of things. Like I said, it's a process, but we try to make it as less intrusive as possible. So that's what happens on day one with coming into Second Chance Center. Plus, you're probably going to get hugged 2 or 3 times. And well, that's something too that's unusual for people in prison. And me, I take it to the next level. There's, I don't know if you guys know this, but sometimes when you see people with teardrops tattooed on their face, that's indicative of usually some very negative kinds of behavior. Sometimes it implies that someone has murdered someone. Usually it's worn by guys who may have always been tough guys who are playing that role on TV. But when I see those guys come through Second Chance Center and I go to shake their hand, I don't let their hand go. I hold on to their hand, and after about 10 seconds, they realize that they're not shaking hands. They're holding hands with another dude. Okay? All right? And I want them to know that tough guy act doesn't play here. You don't get no benefit from it here. It's not worth anything here. And sometimes I'll put the other hand on top, so we really holding hands now. I just want them to know this is different. Bring it on in. Let's. And I'm going to tell you, I believe that people live up to or down to the expectations of folks to a great extent. When they come to Second Chance Center, we expect them to succeed, and we let them know that. And we want to do everything we can. We just ain't going to work harder than you. So I appreciate the time, and you're standing up.
We still have a couple more minutes for questions.
Please, ma'am. Ladies first, please, sir.
You started out by saying to look for work with the government and non-service. Is there some reason you're avoiding the service industries?
Oh no, I didn't say that. No.
Yeah, you did.
Excuse me? No, we don't avoid service industries at all, ma'am. You know, when we first started doing this work myself about 11 years ago, we used to tell people take a job, any job. Right. One, because people feel better about when they
themselves.
Start to earn. The first couple of years at Second Chance Center, we spent time going out into the community to employers in the industry, promoting our people. As we promoted their statuses, whether it was in the halfway houses or on parole, we promoted that as a plus, especially in certain industries like food service and construction, because that meant that our people were taking urinalysis tests. So if you're looking for employees to be drug-free, ours are probably going to be. If they're in the halfway house, they have to work. So they're going to be, we promoted these things as positives to the community. And now we have, the economy in Colorado is better than it's been. I've been home almost 13 years. It's better than it's ever been. So we're not having a difficulty with folks finding work. But this, you mentioned that, and I'm glad you did, because one of the programs that came out of that Transforming Safety grant was a food truck that teaches culinary skills, so they're certifying people in the community in food prep and food safety. We just made an agreement to let them park on our lot and train folks there, and also use our electricity. And they're going to make lunch twice a week for the Second Chance Center, so that'll ease up some work on our staff. So it's kind of these collaborations are the kind of thing that works. But no, we're certainly out to, yes, I met with someone just Friday from one of the assistance living communities near here, and it was very interesting because they were willing to work with our folks, and it hasn't always been like that. And so we're just grateful for these opportunities. We put the onus on our people to keep these doors open. If someone is giving us an opportunity, crying out loud, we gotta make the most of it. And we have to respect that opening, because nobody owes us anything. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious as to how you're working with employers on their applications that say that, have you ever had a felony, and they turn and won't employ those individuals coming out of prison.
Well, this is interesting, because I have a little cognitive dissonance about that issue. People deserve to know who it is that they're bringing into their businesses, just like they deserve to know who they're bringing into their homes. We passed a piece of legislation 4 years ago where it concerned state jobs, where you couldn't ask about a person's criminal background until they were one of the last candidates interviewing for a job. Which we said, that's great, because at least at that point, the person has had a chance to represent themselves and present their skill set, and now you can take this into account. We think that's fair. One, it gives a person a chance not to have his application filed in the trash just because it says, there's certain efforts going out to ban the box, to ban that question. That's why I say the cognitive dissonance, because I believe people have a right to know who it is that they're employing. I want to know, not that I'm going to be barring somebody with a felony, but I do like to know. I want to know, because I don't want to put you in a position where, one, you're not going to be your best, or two, you might be triggered into being someone less than your best. I want to know about those things, and I'm a person that's previously incarcerated. So now, if some of the applications are asked, have you been convicted of a felony in the last 7 years? So if you've been in prison 8 years, you can say no.
Well, Lateef, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you
very, very much. We're not done with you. Okay. We still have a job for you to do. But first, we support a small library, and these are book plates that go in the kids' books when we purchase books for them. And this is a copy for you.
Thank you.
That will be in a book, as a book plate, in a book in the library.
It'll also be in a frame at Second Chance.
There you go. There you go. And we have one other job for you to do.
What's that?
To make somebody very happy today. We do operate a legal lottery.
Okay.
We need you to pull a ticket and read the last 3 numbers.
Make sure I just get one.
Just one.
The last 3 numbers are 5, 4, 5.
Oh, look at that. Our visitor.
It's rigged.
All right, hold it up really high for that guy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Possibly only one.
Is this for me?
You draw the blue marble, you win the jackpot.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I'd love to get together.
You get to draw 2 marbles.
Come visit us. Let me give you my card.
The first one
is blue. So how much is the jackpot?
Well, jackpot with inclusion is now north of $1,900.
Wow! Congratulations. You'll get a check from Barbara. Yeah. You'll get a check from Barbara along with a 1099. Perfect. Congratulations. Okay, if you'll all stand and join me in the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you and have a great day, everybody.